Hey guys, and welcome back to the FPL Tips YouTube channel for yet another preview video. This time we are in the Game Week 21, and very happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you too, Anshuman. How's it going?
Happy New Year. It's been good. It's been fine. Again, a good game week last time as well. Looking forward to the busy part of the season again with the chips strategy coming in, kicking in, hoping to gain some rank. How is it for
Yeah,
you?
and yeah, it's been good. I think this is a small break that's much needed right now. I mean, not break in the football part of it. We've had the Carabao Cup semi-final. We have the FA Cup third round fixtures going on, but in terms of FPL, it's been a 1.5 weeks of rest
Yeah.
after intense planning towards the end of December, where there were like some 7-8 game weeks and a lot of ups and downs throughout the month. And yeah, I think. Overall it's been a good journey altogether, navigating through those game weeks, and now it's the most fun part of the season where we are starting to look into the double game weeks and the blank game weeks. When are they coming? And sort
Yeah.
of moving as a whole towards that, trying to make sense of our transfers, thinking about it twice thrice before making it, and so trying to move towards the blanks and the doubles. And yeah, it's definitely the most planning intensive part of the season as well, where like initially we are just looking at a 4-6 game week period. Now we are going and looking at it for like a 10 game week period, 15 game week period. So yeah, that's the beauty of the this second half of FPL. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
let's just jump into it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you must have prepared and went through the details and nuances of this whole planning situation. So, yeah, let's get started. You can help our viewers to gain an
Yeah,
understanding
I
of
mean,
it.
definitely not as much, but it's something that keeps going in mind all the time, because you'll need to navigate through a lot of different things. And like last season we discovered that there's no one way of doing it, and it's totally team dependent, totally the style dependent of how you play. What fixtures would you like to attack? Do you like having more, like for example, do you like playing a free hit in a double game week or a blank game week? It all depends, and there's no one particular strategy. But let's just go through how things are looking. This is a fixture picker from Lego Mane on Blue Sky. To hit a follow to him, I think he creates a lot of charts like these that help you look at things in macro. I'll directly go into when particularly what we'll get to know. For now, I think we got to know that the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg is done, which was on the 7th of January, where Newcastle beat Arsenal 2-0, and Liverpool lost to Spurs 1-0 in the first leg. And then there's going to be a second leg after four more game weeks. So there's going to be 4 weeks of FPL action, and then coming to the second. And the reason I'm discussing this is that there's a repercussion of this in Game Week 29, where which is on the 15th of March. It's quite a while later, but whatever's going to happen in these fixtures is going to end up in a blank game week in Game Week 29, where the Carabao Cup final will be played at the same time as the weekend, and that will make teams miss. So, for example, if Arsenal and if Spurs and Newcastle go through as they've won in the first leg, Newcastle and Crystal Palace will be a blank in Game Week 29, and Spurs versus Fulham will also be a blank in Game Week 29. So you whoever players you have from those teams, you might have to plan around it and ensure that um, you have you have players who end up playing that week. And the same blank will also result in a future double game week. So the teams blanking in Game Week 29 will be doubling in Game Week 33, and that's sort of the first blank game week and double game week pairing that we have this season. And we also have the double game week between which was caused because of the
Yeah.
cancellation of
Mm.
Liverpool and Everton, which is going to be somewhat in Game Week 24 and Game Week 25. I think they're sort of waiting to see if Liverpool confirm their
Look,
spot on the top 8 of the Champions League, so that they don't have to play. So uh, uh, February 11th and February 18th, as well as February. So sometime in February 11th, February 18th is going to be the knockout fixture, the first knockout fixture, which will be played between the teams who are placed 16th and 24th. Sorry, 8th till 24th in the Champions League, to play the round of 16 then with the top 8 teams. So Liverpool are now well placed to finish in the top 8, but just that confirmation to ensure that in that particular time the Liverpool Everton game can be scheduled. So that's
yeah,
the overall thing of this.
It's
Yeah.
expected to happen 25, game week 25. It's more or less likely. So if people are planning, game week 25 is when you can expect sort of the Liverpool double to happen.
Yeah, and there's a small chance it could happen in 24 as well. But now, as and when the fixtures are going closer to the game week, I think game week 25 looks like a more likely time because of the notice you need to give for the teams to prepare for it. But game week 23 is when you might get to know that, because Liverpool play Lille at home in that particular
Yeah.
week, and so on. So that's with the first double game week. And then, as I mentioned, there's a blank game week 29 and double game week 33 pairing. And then the FA Cup last season, generally we had the FA Cup quarterfinals as well as the semifinals affecting the blank and double, but the scheduling is in such a way that the FA Cup is uh, extensively in weekends until the semi-final, or extensively in midweeks until the semi-final, where it's going to be on a weekend, affecting like clashing with the Premier League fixtures, and that's going to be falling in game week 34. So that's well beyond our time and planning right now, but that's going to be there in game week 34. And then there's going to be a double in game week 36. That's not even in the chart as of now, but that's again times where the chips can be used. And what is the chips that we have right now? I mean, I'm going on a big monologue over here. I'll also give you your time. But that's we have the second wild card that has been activated, like that's available from game 20 onwards. We have the free hit for people who haven't played it yet. Triple captain, some of them played it with Haaland on a single game week, but there is another chance to play a triple captain if you haven't played it yet. There is the bench boost, where you get your bench points, which is another big chip that we look forward to planning towards every. And there's the new assistant manager chip
Yeah.
that is out this year, and that's the mystery chip, which is another chip that's on the table to be planning. So the reason we plan in the doubles and the blanks is to maximize the gain, and also to minimize the damage in the blank gaming. So these are the two reasons that we look at the chips towards. But yeah, any first thoughts on how things are looking towards for you, and like what is your approach towards this?
No, I'll start like breaking it down for our viewers. It's the same category I fall in, where now we have these four chips. I would just like to repeat: wildcard, the assistant manager chip, the free hit, and the bench boost. I'm assuming triple captain is pretty much independent of these chips. If you still have them, it looks like a season where you can play them in a single game week given Salah's form, or maybe in game week 25, depending because the fixtures would fall really good for Salah. That's an option. So I would say these are the four chips that are at hand that we have. And the game weeks we're targeting is 29, 33, 34, and 36, if I'm right. Those are
Yes.
the 29 and 34 are the blanks, 36 and 33 are the doubles. Now, for do we have information of which double is the biggest and which blank is the biggest as of now?
So the blank of 34 is going to be bigger than blank of 29, because assuming that
More teams make it to the.
at least four teams will be playing in the FA Cup semi-final, four Premier League teams. So assuming
Okay.
that not all Championship or League One teams end up, which is very highly unlikely, that at least four teams or five teams can play there, and that could be a blank where anywhere between 0 to 8 teams can blank in that week.
Okay.
Uh, in that particular, so it is potentially the higher double game week, higher bank game week, and so 36 was potentially the higher double game.
Okay, so let's dig deep into this because now we have two sort of game weeks which are blanking, and the first thought everyone would probably have, which I have as well, is where to use our free hit chip. That's generally the chip you use to get out of a blank game week. But now there is a genuine question that we need to address here because if Newcastle make it through to the Carabao Cup final, which looks likely, they blank Crystal Palace blank in 29, which are pretty much loaded in our teams right now. We have Munoz, people have Sar, Eze, people have Mateta as well at times. Henderson is people in people's team. Everyone pretty much has a double Newcastle, and they have decent fixtures through and through. I don't see why people would upsell these players. So that's sort of the discussion we should look at first. Where yeah, the fixture ticker would even extend that they have good run of fixtures, pretty much on the top. Crystal is on the top. Newcastle is in middle because of Man City and Liverpool. I think Man City is a slightly overrated fixture for them. I think they will do decent against them. So, what do you think? What's your first thoughts on navigating? What blank game week are you targeting for the free hit chip?
I personally look at free hit for a double generally, because it's where your upside lies, and free hit is when some doubles where you might not. So like if you approaching double with transfers, you're gonna settle with the players you have in your team, and double is sort of the maximizing two fixtures with players in form. If you bring in that like that particular players, and then you can maximize that. So for example, last season we saw in a double where there were players, some teams which had Gabriel who just carried it on, but then when you had a free hit, you could bring in Ben White, who outscored Gabriel by 14 points, and that's a huge gain when it
Yeah.
comes to a free hit. While we also saw in the blank game week last season where teams navigated with maybe a hit or two towards the blank game week 29, where the huge FA Cup quarterfinals was, but then the free hitters ended up not gaining as much, and there were also some teams which were not in the free hit that sort of outscored the free hit team. And in such blank game weeks, you'll always people who are not free hitting but are active, have a few transfers, can get to the same team that is there in the free hit. So my immediate thought is to free hit in a double game week. But
Okay.
looking at the fixtures, as you did mention, Crystal Palace look in form. They are looking in an upward trend, so they are a team that can be looked at, as well as Newcastle. And we have lot of us have Isak, people have Hall, people have Gordon.
Gordon.
Murphy
Yeah.
looks like looking at a good option as well. So overall, with Newcastle as well, I think it's a time where you will be investing on a lot of them, and you will have to see, because for example, for Crystal Palace, you have game week 25 to 30. If you look at the fixtures, you have Everton, Fulham, Aston Villa at home, Ipswich at home, and then you have the 29, which could be a blank. And then in 30 again, they have a good fixture. I'm actually like blanking on the fixture, but I get 30 and 31, they still have good fixtures. Same with Newcastle. As soon as they're done with the game week 29 blank, the game week 30 and game week 31, they have good fixtures again. So that sort of leans you towards using the free hit, because if these are the teams that double in game week 33, and you hold on to them with them having good fixtures in 30, 31, 32, then you also have the double game week teams set with your Crystal Palace and Newcastle, because they have throughout. The only caveat is you need to see them, expect them to carry this form throughout. If that's the case, and if they keep using the fixtures to carry their form, I think until game week 33 you have a very good setup. And in 33 you can maybe play all the double game week players. You can also look to play at bench boost, and then 34 is the place where you can sort of look into dead ending your team and playing
Okay,
your
so
wild card, which is
yeah, I would say let's not talk multiple strategies. Let's talk like one by one. Let's dig into like, because like even in my head there are like multiple options. You can save transfers up till 29, use them, then wildcard out of it completely, because now you can carry forward those transfers as well and still buy the same players. But again, if you don't need to transfers, you can save up to 5 and then shuffle around your blank game week team completely, and you're set for 29. So let's see. I mean, obviously, then that means that there are multiple good strategies this time, and I think carrying over transfer will make a huge difference to our strategies this year.
yes. I think that's the one thing I'm stressing a lot this season, especially at this point of time where uh, moving from one particular player on a sideway move is totally not ideal at all. So we did see a few of them happening over the last few weeks, where Rogers to Enzo, Rogers to Ahmad were moves that were made, but that they are just like very high luxury moves, because this season that the entire trend has changed, that now you can save up to 5 transfers. That's a mini wildcard for you. And
Yeah,
if you have 5 transfers, there are sometimes where 5 6 transfers is all you need to play a wildcard. So 5 6
yeah,
changes, you end up playing a wildcard, you make 5 6 big changes. And that's the same thing you can do with saving up 5 transfers. And when it comes to free hit, you can play a mini wildcard over there. When it comes
yeah,
to maybe the second free hit, you can play a mini wildcard as well. So I think the first and foremost plan of the immediate is trying to keep hold of your transfers, not jump into transfers that seem luxury, which is a sub 6 million midfielder to a sub 6 million midfielder, or a Joao Pedro to Jimenez. So these are transfers that do look like luxury transfers. And I think it's currently a better strategy to hold on to them, because the other thing over there is that you're not 100% sure that if, say, Ismail Assar has a Southampton at home, and Semenyo has Fulham away, you're not 100% sure that Ismail Assar is definitely going to outscore. So that is also another thing that needs to be
Yeah,
considered over here in terms of looking at your transfers. And I feel like all of them are decent enough picks who will keep ticking along one week or the other. And your transfer is more valuable to be held on to right now because the upside is coming later,
yeah.
and navigating there, that would be much harder.
I agree. I think the first and foremost part of any strategy, given, like, I agree there would be more chips strategy around 29, 34, 36, depending on who goes through and what, which we'll get to know in the next 4 game weeks. But first and foremost, I think try saving up to at least 3 or 4 transfers in 29, up to 29 going into that game week, because that allows you a bunch of different strategies right away. And I don't think so. There is a lot of player options as of now, which are looking good in form. Teams are looking good. If the team is good, the fixtures are sort of iffy. The price point is becoming a slight problem to some extent as well. So I think the team people have at core is decent for the fixtures we have at hand, and you can hold on to those players for now. So that's probably step number one going into fixture and like the chip strategy. We move on to game week 29. We have multiple strategies we discussed. One, I mean, you said that you prefer not to free hit in 29. Doesn't seem necessary.
Um, Not really. I actually am looking to not free hit, but I don't think the free hit strategy is too bad as well. But like what I'd like to largely say is, I think beyond game week 29, you're gonna have a lot of different things happening. Game week 33, game week 34, game week 36. Generally, game week 38 we see as a very high upside game week where
Yeah,
a lot of points has been scored. So there is a great potential of using a lot of, like, having different chip strategies and using them at this point. And for that, having a like using a free hit in 29 might although be good, that might be better. So it is, again, you have a lot of unknowns. You don't know what's happening in the FA Cup. You don't know which teams are going to blank in 34. You also don't know which teams are going to blank in game week 29 for sure until game week 24 is over. So the next 4 game weeks, you're completely out of the blue. The only thing you know is Arsenal have lost to Newcastle 2-0 at home. Spurs have beaten Liverpool 1-0. But then there's a chance in the second fixture for everything to completely turn. So that's just basically that. Just going back to
yeah,
the sort of probabilities of game week 29 game week blank. So Newcastle Crystal Palace now looks likely because Newcastle have won 2-0 away from home against Arsenal, and then at home they are very good. Arsenal generally struggle at St James Park as well. So because of that, the likeliness of Newcastle going through to the final is 84.30%. This is again compiled by Ben Krellin, who's just the nerd when it comes to blanks and blank game weeks, double game weeks. On Twitter, do hit him a follow. And then Aston Villa, Liverpool. Liverpool are still more likely to go than to
yeah.
the final than Spurs, and then Arsenal are the least likely. So Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Liverpool look like the more likely blank game weeks of that. But you would never know. It could be the other way around as well. So you won't have information until game week 24, and until game week 24, you just have to look at, if you have only one transfer, one free transfer now, the idea would be having 3 to 4 transfers until game week 24. And the other thing we will know in game week 24 is also the double game week that's coming up. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of information that's going to be overloaded into you, and that's something we have to anticipate right now.
So I mean, say first step again, save transfers, and that seems like the best strategy for Game Week 29. I don't see any other working out, because the other caveat is that even if you play a sort of free hit or a wild card, Game Week 34 and 36, 33 and 36, sorry, could have different doubles. They could have drastically different teams doubling up. So again, you can't really wild card and then expect the same team to carry forward in both doubles and free hit probably in 34. That won't happen necessarily. You can't probably free hit here, because then you might be into sort of two minds when to bench boost as well. So I think best is
Yes.
to save up, and because in this scenario, I think on average we will still miss out on 5 players. Either combinations we miss out on 5 players, because Newcastle plus Crystal Palaces, and then that's about a combination of 5 players. Fulham also, people have Fulham players, Robinson and Jimenez. So 5 there. Even with Liverpool, Aston Villa, and Arsenal missing out, that's slightly a higher ratio of players. I think people have 2 Liverpool at times, Aston Villa have 1, that's 3. Arsenal minimum a double up, that's 5, and then Palmer 6. That could be slight, but 5 or 6 is where we're looking at. You can still navigate through free transfers because you might end up with 5 free transfers. You have that opportunity, and you'll have the information already beforehand, so you can use it up as well. So in the next 3 game weeks, possibly try to save two, maybe all of your transfers if you can, but two. It will give you a better head start over other people for Game Week
Yes,
29.
yes, yes,
I think
exactly.
I'm
And
falling into that strategy too. It
yeah, yeah.
seems more
So go
likely
on,
for
go
me
on.
to. No, yeah, I'm just saying that it seems more likely to me to just save up, and I don't see any reason to shuffle around as well in my team so much.
Yeah, I'd agree with the same because of the pure, once the information is out, I think we can come back and sort of discuss, because that's a better time to discuss with a lot of strategies on the head coming up, and maybe a little more clarity from the FA Cup and Carabao Cup onto what. And for example, if Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Liverpool are the teams that are blanking in 29, they will be doubling in Game Week 33. And that could be a good bench boost week as well, because you have cheap assets from Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Newcastle. And as well, like, only expensive assets that you need to spend on is Liverpool, but all of us are loaded on Salah, and it's like most of us are also loaded on Trent. Maybe looking at other cheaper assets in Liverpool who might put their hands up at that point could be the right way to go, and then you can bench boost in Game Week 33. So that's a good strategy that comes up. But if not, you can also free hit in Game Week 33, which could be another double game week where you can free hitting in Game Week 36 is an option, bench boost in Game Week 36 is an option, free hit in Game Week 34 is also an option. So there's what I'm trying to say largely is there's like a bunch of different permutations and combinations that are there, and not all of them at this point look like bad strategies. They could all be good strategies, and some of those strategies will be ruled out by the information that we'll be getting from now until Game Week 25-26. So which is why I think, again, long story short, save your transfers right now and try to not make. I think you're muted.
I was saying there was a lot of combination that can happen even with the wildcard chip, because you can always, like, there isn't dead ending isn't a concept, but you can use up transfers till a certain game. You can just wildcard out of it the next game with completely different sort of set of teams. So that's
Yeah.
the it does diminish in my opinion, the appeal of a second wildcard, because the teams are pretty much core and set and template for now. They will remain the same till 29, and after that, the chip activation is so much that your wildcard essence loses out a bit. So I think it generally does diminish a 29. And a lot of people say that at this point, for someone like specifically moving on to the next trip, which is wildcard, that if someone doesn't have a good team or a core team right now, I wouldn't stop them from wildcarding right now and saving up till 29, because that will still allow them to navigate the fixtures easily.
I mean, I think it could be a viable strategy, but not the best for now for me,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think,
obviously. But for someone who has a really weak team at this point, I think there is more value to gain right now and gain over the next 10-15 game weeks than going into game week 31, 33 with only 8 game weeks worth or 5 game weeks worth of points left to wildcard out of that.
yeah, I mean, depends on your team. If
Yeah.
you don't have any Crystal Palace, Newcastle, uh, at this point, if you don't have Liverpool players set in your team at this point as well. So yeah, it depends on the team, but mostly I feel like for most teams right now, which I'm looking around, I think there are a lot of decent options who you are like, you'll have some, you won't have some. So
Yeah.
when it's that case, I don't think playing the wild card is that much needed. But unless you really don't have Isak, you don't have Palmer, that's just a like place where you want to play the wild card, because I think this appeal for City, that could have been my other reason, is also out now, because their fixture, they're right in the bottom of the ticker. So their fixtures are going bad, and nobody from now till Game Week 28 is going to jump into the City assets, which is another thing to note. So
Yeah. And
I
like
think,
for
yeah,
me as well, if you have a clear cut, like I can handpick teams which you should be there in a team. Like there is, you should have some Crystal Palace players looks like that. Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Apart from these 5 teams, I don't think there is specific team that stands out. There could be some players around. There could be like an Jimenez, Rogers, another small player. Semenyo is there. Maybe Bruno Fernandes. But at core, Mbuemo is doing well. But at core, these are the 5 teams you want to focus. If your team is pretty much including a bit of each of these teams, I think you're in a good spot. You don't have to overthink that much. Don't have to commit 11 players out of these 5 teams. But if you have, like, let's say 7 to 8, I think you're in a good space.
I'd agree with you. I think having like there are a lot of good players who might not be doing well for a couple of weeks, but then remaining patient with them does look like the strategy. Because, for example, if when you look at Joao Pedro, who was not performing for a while, then gave back-to-back 9 points. So that will happen. You will need to be patient with a few picks at this point of the season. Earlier, maybe moving around might have been a good gamble to take, but I don't think the gamble is worth it right now.
Yeah, not right now.
I think after that, let's just move on to the assistant
Assistant manager.
manager chip, which is the prices have been revealed yesterday. Uh, but what is the first thought about it? I think the pricing is just very like all over the place. I mean, I
Yeah,
was thinking 1.5 to zero point 0.5. I was thinking 1.5, 1.5 will be the three ways. I didn't see zero point 0.8, 1.1 coming. But
it's
yeah,
yeah pretty random, but pretty interesting as well. Uh, Obviously, some unknowns. The Everton manager is pretty good. I think Moyes is confirmed as manager
yeah,
to Everton.
Moyes looks like it. I think he's
Mhm.
almost confirmed, and it's a contract until 2027. So first there were rumors that it'll be a short term, but I think it's gonna be sort of a medium term. So
Yeah,
the Barclaysman era is back with David Moyes being manager of Everton. So it's a yeah. I think fairly this season it will be survival. So for that, I think he will be set up defensively, and then he'll be
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
take it forward
That's
next
going to
season.
happen. But I honestly like the pricing, especially for the Liverpool slot. It's just at 1.5, you want a Liverpool sort of asset. I mean, you have to got to treat it as an asset. It will give you a lot of points. And slot at 1.5 seems like a bargain. It's like if you go to Liverpool players for that pricing as a third spot, I don't think anybody trumps it at any sort of situation. And he'll give you
Exactly.
much more value than any other player. He's more guaranteed. There is enough. There's a double game week as well, so that will be beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. I think at this point, when we are looking at the immediate double game week, when you're looking at players like Gakpo, who's been doing well of late, he's been scoring 4 goals in the last 6 game weeks or something. You do gamble against minutes. That is possibly a question. Although he's been playing a lot of football of late, but with slot you're gonna get someone for 6 million cheaper, who's probably has a higher upside for the double game week, because you are looking at 30 to 40 points in a 4 game week period. That I'm not sure you need a Mo Salah to get past that. I don't think like anyone just out of the blue will be getting past that 30-40 points over a 4 game week period. And you also have room to use your transfers out, maybe going from slot to someone else and trying to get the upside of the I think that's going to be a big way between
Yeah,
managers. Like, are they going to play safe, playing the big players, the top managers who are going to guarantee you wins, or are you going to gamble and try to climb up the ranks? So, for example, Glasner with Crystal Palace, who are on the up, uh, is that a solid move to play him against a team that are sort of a
yeah,
little bit more further up than them?
I'm not sure on the rule here, and just an interesting thing to point out that I think the assistant manager chip reveals that if your team is lower on ranked currently on the Premier League, you get extra points for a win. So teams like Crystal Palace, City, those teams are slightly lower than they should have been there. I think that's the rule of the assistant managership. So if City play Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle in the next four, they win those three, you will gain extra points. And it's not like City can't
Yes,
beat them. Same with Crystal Palace. They have a good run of fixtures. They're pretty low. They're
yes,
16th or 15th on the table. So those matchups will really help them. And
yes,
like
yes.
pretty much most teams, Brentford, United, Everton, they're pretty
For
above
example, in
full.
game week 27, where Crystal Palace play Aston Villa, and Aston Villa are like 5-6 places ahead of them, that's a
Yeah.
good game to navigate. But the only like small caveat is I think they're gonna be volatile game weeks. Game week positions will be moving a lot, and sort of predicting who's gonna be down right now is
Oh,
hard. So,
yeah.
for yeah,
Go
for
ahead. Go ahead.
example, Man City play Liverpool in game week 26. You might want to look into that and see if that's a possible thing. But if Man City move into the top four by then, that move just moves out. I think a new move comes in. But It's another, I think, another place where you can't really choose your managers other than say slot for the double game week. If you're playing it in game week 24 or game week 25, it's going to be activated from, it's going to be available from game week 24 onwards. But I think the double game week is when I think you'd ideally play it first, unless an opportunity arises for you, and then you sort of try to take in a good home game for a team that is on the up against a team that is sort of 5 6 places ahead of them, and maybe that's a game that they can win, or even draw is also going to give you 5 more points. So a
Yeah.
draw for a team that is 5 places below the other team is better than a win for a team that is not. So that's another thing that needs to be uh, looked at.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah, even at the end of the season, the slightly lower teams which want to win, or maybe the middle teams which are be on the beach around that zone, there will be good results there, and there could be a lot of
Exactly.
goals. At the end of the season, also seems like a very good prospect to use this chip.
Exactly. Yes, yes. I think coming to the time when this chip can be used, I think the first one is obviously the game of 24 to 26 or 25 to 27 horizon, where your Liverpool is doubling,
Liverpool.
and you can bring in slot for that. If not, if you think that's not the best strategy, and if you think game week 36 to game week 38 is a good strategy, where 36 is a double, you can bring in a manager who has good double at that point. 37 38, as you mentioned, is a very volatile time where some teams are gonna just going, like, they don't have much to play for, while the relegation threatened teams like maybe Everton at that point are like 17th, or Wolves are 17th 16th. They will have to play maybe an Aston Villa or something. Then at that point, they will be looking to go and win in that game, and that's sort of
Yeah.
a very important phase where you can gain these points.
And it's gonna happen. It will most likely happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think pretty much that's it. A lot of things will be changing. I think we'll come back to discuss about the assistant managership, when exactly is the time, because at game week 25, when you're planning to use the assistant managership, you might not know in game week 36 if an assistant managership is good, or a bench boost is better, or a free hit is better. So
Just
that's a
Yeah, just another question for people who want to have the assistant managership. You need sort of two transfers to bring the manager in, right? If you have like three players, you have to sell someone and then bring him in your team.
um you need to clear funds, but when you're playing the chip, you're not gonna use a transfer to bring in the manager. So
Okay,
the
so you
when you're
have to
playing
have
the
him in the
chip,
back.
the chip comes with a manager attached to it, so you just need the money for that. But
Okay,
then moving around managers will be costing you transfer. So for example, you're bringing slot for gaming 25, and then you want to move from slot to say Moyes in gaming 26, who has Man United at home. You need to spend that transfer to move him away.
okay,
uh, but again, it's a very it's something that we've not played before. We are going to navigate it through, because there are certain things that could also, like, there are a lot of trade-offs. Like when you're going with someone 1.5 million, you might get guaranteed points, but when you're looking at someone lower, you're also spending lesser, as well as gambling that plus 10 points. So it's again the budget that you have, the team value you have, all of this will play into place. And I think
yeah.
this is going to be a very high variance chip, at least, to say the
And
least, at
there's
this
going to
point.
be enough room for gambling because certain lower teams have a good chance. Generally, there could be
Exactly.
upsets. You would we want to bet against those upsets and everything.
Yes.
It's going to be an interesting
Yes.
one.
Yes. Exactly. I think we'll revisit into this as well, closer to when it's a good
Yeah,
time to play this chip, and have a much more like detailed discussion on what is the repercussions, and have more things to show and talk about as well. But at this point, we do look at 24 to 26 to 25 to 27 as a good window, as well as 36 to 38.
yep.
Okay, I think
Okay.
we've had a good,
Yeah,
extensive discussion on strategies. We can move on to looking at the now, which is the current time, and look at which teams look good for the current period. This is the Rob T graphic I had picked up from Twitter, where it shows you the trend that is happening towards this season. So from game week 1 to game week 20 onwards, who's on the up, who's rising to get more points, and sort of all of that. Clearly seeing that Arsenal and Man City have dipped a little bit this season. Chelsea are on the up. Newcastle were dipping first, but now back on the up. Nottingham Forest have surprised all of us, and they are. I mean, they are looking inevitable
they're looking sort of inevitable. I will continue that. Bournemouth on the up. I specifically two other teams that look good, which is Fulham, and we have Brentford. Brentford is probably because of the early half season and their form, but Fulham look consistently good. They're on the up, and we can look into Fulham as well. Yeah,
And Crystal Palace at the start of the season were looking good because of the back end of last season, but then went on a dip, but now are back on the up. So it's
sort of
another
returning.
interesting sort of place to look at. West Ham have not been good this season; they've gone down, but now they've sacked their manager. Potter is in, so let's see how that adapts and all of that.
This
So,
week.
but it's
Yeah.
it's interesting to look over here to see which are sort of the middling teams where you get the cheaper assets. Or always you're looking at Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea. You're gonna count on these assets, but the other assets who you want to count on will be okay. Like looking at the trend of this might be an interesting place to sort of start when it comes to seeing if these assets are worth it or not.
Yeah, I would summarize it for people. Every game week, the x-axis basically is total number of points they would end up with at the end of the season. And if I'm understanding it correctly, so Liverpool as of game week 20 are expected to end up on 87 points. They're ending up on first rank most likely. Arsenal is second with 79. It gives you a general idea of good form for teams which are looking in the dark blue side is essentially good form and good numbers where you want to sort of target those teams more often. So you see an upward trajectory, a good dark blue sort of range. You can think of getting those players. It would just give you more validation of form out of a player and as well the team doing good. That generally is a big parameter. That's how
Yeah,
people, if you are looking into this graphic or pick it up from Twitter, that's how you want to interpret this as well.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes, and
Pretty
let's
much
just move forward into the segue into our discussions of the for this game, the positions.
this game.
Starting up with a small issue with João Pedro, who's going to miss the game against Coventry in the FA Cup this weekend, and then where Hosler actually mentioned saying that I would love to have him on the pitch also in the FA Cup, but in the end he twists his ankle in training. This was 2 days back, so around on 8th January was where he twisted his ankle in training, and they have to wait for an MRI. If we have clear results about that, then we can let you know. But before, I think we have to wait for the results. So currently, there's not much other news, but it when it goes to the MRI, I think the scan results have to be there. The good thing is, I think the Brighton play on the Thursday, which is 2 days after the deadline. There's more time for him to recover. Um, but yeah, I think it's a good game. So missing out on that might be a shame. But
Yeah.
what do you think
Yeah.
about this?
Unfortunately, can't say much. Ankle twist could be anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. My bigger concern is should people hold on to him because there are two game weeks sort of consecutive, and he's generally taken like even this season when Pedro got injured, they've given him a lot of time to sort of integrate him into the team back again. So it could be another case of the same situation. My first thought is only that should be looking at transferring him because he was my replacement for Ivan Ilson, and now he's injured as well. So that's why my first thought is should we sort of look into getting him out, look into more press conference details, or just hold him through this period and stick to our strategy.
I think you should probably wait for a little more details in the press conference. That's a given. But also depending on that, or even like if you can bench him for the 2 weeks, it might not be a bad idea. The only issue this week he can be benched because Rogers has an Everton, for example. But next week, like for Rogers owners, I think it will be more difficult. But it depends on the bench you have. If you can play your fifth player, you can just bench João Pedro for 2 weeks, and it's not going to be a big harm. Because I don't think you can move João Pedro away to some other player who's going to be that much better than him, and you're not. It's not like you're getting a lot of money also by moving out of Joe Pedro. If he was maybe a 7 million or 6 million, 8 million priced forward, moving him away would be decent because then you can upgrade in other spots. But you're not going to do much about that over here. So I think just holding him and playing your bench player might be a good option right now, and just hope that it's not too bad. But again, everything depends on the press conference and how confident Hertzler is and what sort of he tries to mention in that.
Yeah, that could help. Hold him for this one at least, and it will also if you hold him through the 2 weeks, it will give you enough time to look at how Moyes is dealing with Everton, how Potter is dealing with West Ham. sort of those forwards, because in the cheaper section there isn't really anything left as of now.
Yes,
It's
yes,
really just Isaac in the forward section, to be honest. Gabriel Jesus maybe a bit, he's looking good, but apart from those two, there isn't a standout third. So you can wait,
and
and that
Chris
could
Wood
also
as
be
well.
an
So
yeah,
who's
Chris Wood. I mean, Chris
inevitable?
Wood consistently there. If you don't have Chris Wood, you can, but in the very very cheap sub 6 million, I don't think apart from Jimenez there
Yes.
isn't an option, to be honest.
Yes,
He's
and
the
I
other
don't think
most
Jimenez is that much of a better option as well.
yeah.
Fixtures are decent. You don't know about Muniz. I'm not sure if it's a long-term injury,
Yeah,
but when Muniz
he's
is there, he's
injured for
definitely
yeah. He's
we'll
injured for
have
a
to wait
couple
and
of
watch.
games. Yeah, he's injured for a couple of game weeks from what I read and listened. But still looks like it's still very uncertain with Jimenez. Isn't the kind of form that you're looking for.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think many of them are. I think nobody is on the run that Isak or Wood is in, to sort of scoring
Yeah.
game week after game week. It's a dry spell and then scoring for a few game weeks, and that's how it's been all season. And But for a 5 million, 5.5 million forward, I don't think there's it's worth using a transfer unless you're on like 4 or 5 transfers at this point. I think holding him for now looks like the better
Yep.
option.
Makes more sense.
And just segueing into the forward discussion, this is I've removed Haaland and Isak, who are comfortably, I mean Isak and Haaland, who are comfortably 1 and 2 in this bracket. Isak is miles away from anyone else. I think his non-pen XG from the last six weeks has been 6.16, which is incredible when you think about it. So like that, I just needed to mention it because Isak has been that good. But coming to the forwards who have been iffy at this point, and number one is Nicholas Jackson. As a Chelsea fan, what do you think about Nicholas Jackson? The fixtures are still there. I think in the next 4 game weeks he's playing Bournemouth at home, Wolves at home, West Ham at home, where and also Man City away, which could be a good fixture as well for him. But I think the patience is running out because he's costing 8.1 million, and for
Yep.
that you're just not able to getting the output. And he's missed the 3 big chances over the last 6 game weeks. His numbers are good, but yeah, it's just a very tricky situation. I'm personally a Jackson owner as well, and I'm planning to hold him again for this week. But it's just not a very best situation to be in because he's not delivering.
I think it's not the best situation in the whole, because when you look at other options that you have, the likes of Solanke, Chris Wood more likely closer. He's more consistent in terms of points and something that you want overall. I think Jackson on even on points isn't higher than Wood. I think having Wood in your team would just be more consistent. It's cheaper, will get you the same points. Solanke is also pretty much close. He's what 10 or 13 points away from Jackson. So it's in the same category. Despite Solanke not being in our talks or conversations at all, he's cheaper as well. So I would say if you have the funds, if you have a transfer, to be honest, Chris Wood and just holding Chris Wood through and through will be helpful. But Nottingham look much better. Chelsea are sort of dipping in form. He's on penalties. Chris Wood is on penalties. He's more talismanic to the team, and overall, just from a end-to-end perspective, he'll just stick with more points. I think. Same with Solanke. I believe Solanke will pretty much be at par in terms of points to Jackson and slightly cheaper too.
Yeah, I think those two look like the good long term picks. Like I think whichever transfer you want to make over here, they have to be a long term pick. The third one is Mateta, of course, but I think I'll come to them after this. But when it comes to the matter of Solanke and Wood, Solanke has Arsenal away, Wood has Liverpool at home this week. So the entry point looks tricky. While Jackson has a team, Bournemouth, who'll come to play, who are not going to sit back and defend, where you're going to expect Jackson to get those chances. And also the thing that Chelsea are going to have a 10-day rest where they'll look fresher. Not that Jackson needs rest. I think he's been getting enough rest, but everyone else around, they'll look fresher. They'll have time to sort of retrospect on what's been going on around this Christmas period. So I think there's a small hope that maybe Jackson will get his goal against Bournemouth. So I don't think this is the week that you need to make the transfer, especially when you're looking at Solanke or Wood. But the other forward, I think that's come in a lot of discussions is John Philippe Mateta. And Crystal Palace, as we did see, are top of the ticker and great fixtures on the up. And he scored against Chelsea. So what do you think about?
I watched the game, and again, I'm not a huge fan of recommending Mateta. He's dropping much deeper than he was last season at the end of last season. So if you're someone who's looking at that picture, oh, he did really well at the last season, and he did that because he's playing much more striker, just sitting around the box. This is different. He's dropping deeper. He's trying to make passes and connections with Eze and Sar. The goal he scored was supposed to be not his. I think Eze could have scored it. He just very unselfishly made put it into his path. It was pretty open. So I don't think I've not seen him come in that position very often as well. I think it was the only time he was in such a position in the entire game. Maybe one more chance he was closer, but not very often like you want to see for a striker. So for me, he's slightly lesser than Solanke or Chris Wood at that price point. Despite Solanke being expensive, I think it's better off because at least he's more nailed in the box. He's sort of getting the form back as well. Mateta is
Yeah,
very yeah, hit and miss. I think, and
yeah, I
it's
tend to
also
agree with that.
positional. Yeah, position.
Exactly. And I think Sar and Eze also, when it comes to the fixtures, look sort of more likely to get the chances in at least three of the next four fixtures. Leicester, West Ham, United, they're away from home, and you're not going to be. They're not going to be games where Mateta is going to be at the middle center of the box, similar to the Chelsea game. If it comes to say a Brentford at home, Everton at home, where they might sit back, or an Ipswich at home, these are the games that might suit Mateta more. But that at this point of time in game week 21 and 22, although he might be good, I'm not sure he's the best asset to go in right now. And I so which makes me think that this is maybe not the best week to remove Jackson as a whole.
Yeah, this week you can probably hold him
Um,
only in the picture, but I would say that you want to sort of have that in plan where you want to move him out to who and just commit to it. Like every game week, Chelsea have a good fixture run. So if he scores this week, you will be tempted to keep him the next week. But again, look back at the overall run of fixtures, and he will score in like he's playing for the top four teams and top two teams in terms of chance generation and scoring goals. So there will be chances he will score in every 3 or 4 games. But consistently, I think Chris would slightly be better in my opinion to get you consistent points. If that's what even Gakpo, I think Gakpo speaking of form. So if someone wants to punt with the double gaming coming up, I wouldn't really stop them. There is minutes risk, but there's enough upside around 24, 25, 26.
yeah, again, I think this week is not the best week with Nottingham Forest away, but game week 23 is Ipswich, and then he has Bournemouth, then Wolves, and maybe Everton game fixed in
Everton,
that.
yeah.
So I think 2-3 game week period looks very good because Gakpo currently is very highly favored by slot. I think for the last few game weeks as well, he's looking at Salah, Diaz, Gakpo as the front three. I think that's the first choice front three. Might be prone to rotation, might be prone to getting off in the 60th minute, but he's looking confident and he has the numbers, he has the form, and he's been scoring goals. So I think he does look like a good option at this point as well. But I would like to go with the safer picks, which is Solanke, Wood, and I also like to mention Wissa in this conversation. He has Man City and Liverpool next to, but after that he has a great run of fixtures. Crystal Palace, Spurs, then he has West Ham, Leicester, Everton, Aston Villa, and also plays in the blank game week 29. So might be a good medium term of 6-7 game weeks as well. It's a nice forward to have, and he's much cheaper. So if you don't have the funds, if your team value is a little low, a Wissa over a Wood might be a good option as well because Wood, although he's been really good this season, over the next few weeks he doesn't have the best of fixtures as well, and doesn't have the best of data as we've seen him all season, but he does end up scoring his first shot. But Wissa does look like a better option too, in terms of the team he plays for, in the terms of sheer volume of chances they create. And they Brentford also tend to create big XG chances for their forwards, which has been a trend all game week. And they're a better attack, although Nottingham Forest are a overall more functional team. So I think Vissa is also someone who you definitely consider. But I just see that this week is a time where you can maybe hold Jackson, unless it's a double move where you need a Gordon in your team.
You make the funds,
Um,
yeah. You make the funds, then make it.
then you maybe do Jackson to Wood or Jackson to Vissa and get Gordon. But other than that, I just hold him for this week.
Yeah. And for people who are looking sub 6 million, just want to touch upon what do you think? Like people who can't afford the likes of Mateta, Jackson, uh, maybe Visa, if you can go to 6.2, if you can't, then Jimenez, just stick with Jimenez and then figure out, wait for 2 game weeks to see if DCL or maybe like a full Kirk like jumps up. There's Duran as
Yeah,
well. Do you think Duran is a better option than Jimenez? The fixtures are not
I don't think he gets back his place in the side. I think Watkins will keep it for the time being.
okay
And
because
there
the
are links
fixtures
with
are good.
Duran going to PSG as well. So
Okay,
it's not an obvious team. I don't think I'll risk that. I don't think there's any assurances when it comes to Duran.
then I think Raul Jimenez. Then there shouldn't be much to discuss.
Yeah, I think Raul Jimenez, because of the fixtures that Fulham have, they are second in the fixture ticker. And maybe if Munez's injury is a little worse than it is, then yeah, so sub 6 million. I don't think there's another option. If Joao Pedro was fit, I would say, but like
He
there
would
are
be better.
it's either he might not be fully fit or you also have Joao Pedro on your team. That's when I'd probably go to Jimenez and see continue with Jimenez for the next few weeks, then move on to Vissa by clearing a few or like a bit of money in that point.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly skimming through the midfielders as well. I had like a genuine question which I'm looking at my midfielders as well, and it's a potent one for people who are watching. And just want something I wanted to point out that people who are into Crystal Palace midfielders, I think this is the moment of switch where you want to jump onto Eze over Sar. Uh, the data might not be there for Eze, but the positioning, the game awareness, and the form looks like to be there, and there is enough
Yes.
fixtures to back it up. At least that is what I saw in the last 2 games. He's just in better positions throughout the game.
Yes, and 2 3 weeks back we looked at as a because at that point I don't think we went because of like the assurance of minutes. Eze was getting off in the 60th minute, 65th minute because he was just
Yeah.
coming back to fitness. But now I think he's back to his fitness levels. And when he is there, and he's clearly that talisman, he clearly has more quality than Ismail Assar. He's that main man. And when it comes to that, you can spend if you can spend that 0.57 more for their main man. I'd also tend to agree. I think Ebre Eze is currently higher up than Ismail Assar, unless you have budget constraints.
Yeah, obviously, if you can afford, I'm not sure if you want to make the sideways move. If it's completely free, I wouldn't really think twice because there is upside. But if you're going for a Crystal Palace midfielder, you have to try get to Eze. I think there is genuine upside in the next 4 or 5 games. He's also on the set pieces, which just adds too much value to it, in my opinion. And Sar is really good, and I think he's been doing very well. He's really dynamic on the ball. But two things that I noticed in the gameplay: he drops sometimes way too deep to make the game happen, and Munoz attacking on that wing also sort of. Uh, because Munoz cuts inside a lot, he is demanded to sort of sometimes stay out or just drop a bit into the half number 8 sort of space, which I think
Yeah,
are two
and same on the
prominent.
other side. I think say the same thing which you're talking about Munoz on the right is with Mitchell on the left. He's going to overlap to get that, but that puts Eze in a more promising position for a right-footed sort of left side attacking midfielder, and he is so lethal from that particular position as when compared to Sar from his position on the right hand side.
And the difference is Mitchell doesn't take up a very left wing sort of role. He allows Eze to be wherever he wants in a free space, and he takes up more of the I'll hold the width, I'll hold the pass. Munoz
Yeah, he
cuts
does. He
inside a
does.
lot. And Sar is just generally okay dropping deeper, not taking that shot unless he's inside the box. There's a small difference. Eze is more selfish as well. I think there is enough upside. If I was with a free transfer with nothing to do in my team, I would actually switch Sar to Eze for a free. I think there is enough upside there.
Yes, I tend to agree on that. Um, Anyone else? I think mainly touching upon the three sort of 7.5 plus assets that are in a lot of teams, which is
Yeah.
Embumo, who smashed it last week, but
Again.
he's consistently keeps smashing it, and I'm not sure why people, including me,
Why,
went
yeah, why
away
do we
from
recommend him?
Embumo in the
Yeah,
first place.
why do
He's
we even
just
recommend people to sell him? He's just like,
yes,
it doesn't matter what fixtures are. Like, we understand some teams it's unplayable for them, but the rest of the times he's just too good, especially against the lower half of
yes.
teams. He's genuinely smashing against them.
Even the big teams, he scored against Arsenal, he scored against Chelsea. As soon as we removed him from our teams, and now he is looking at a couple of game weeks where he is playing Man City and Liverpool at home. People who don't have Mbumo are not going to move into Mbumo either because they don't have the funds, or they're going to like wait it on for the fixtures. And people who have Mbumo are just going to laugh at the others because he's going to score in both the games.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, and I think with MMO is best for people who have Gordon. I think the best strategy would be holding Gordon till you get the results for the AFL Cup, and if Newcastle go through, there's a good switch between Gordon to MMO. Like a good fixture turnaround, good price point, and then it avoids a blank gaming player as well. I think when you look
Yes,
at the
when you
fixtures,
look at game week 25, where
yeah,
Newcastle play Man City away, then you come down to Brentford. They have West Ham away, Leicester away, Everton home, Villa home, and then Bournemouth away in the blank game week. So, yeah, it's a good five fixture period. And even the Spurs game, if you feel like you can gamble over there, want to move into Mboom a little earlier, that's also very good. But I'd say Gordon is at the same level of Mbumo at this moment, purely because of fixtures, and he's
yeah,
looking fresh, he's
100%.
looking sharp. He's also returned in his last 3-4 games, although he's been void of that big haul that we've seen him do quite a few times, maybe a goal and an assist or a couple of goals in the past, in last season as well. He's not done that yet, but I think that's coming because of the way he's playing, the form Newcastle are in, and the sharpness that they're just very functional at the moment. Exactly know what's happening. The tactical tweak of playing Tonali deeper and playing
Yeah,
Gimenez in front
Bruno
has
Gimenez
worked a
up top
lot.
is
Joe
doing good.
Linton is a machine. I think they're just like have the best set of 11 who play so well together, and Newcastle look
Yeah,
like a very good team right now.
and Botman is back,
Even
so
Jacob
they're playing
Murphy
on the
right
back
now
as well.
is.
Yeah, everyone looks in form. But I have like a differentiating opinion here. I still prefer Mbeumo. I feel he's more goal involvement, which is a big plus on his side, and penalties. With Gordon, yes, he's really good. He's the creator, but the spread across Newcastle goals, apart from Isaac, is pretty spread across. It's not like Gordon would be second. General times it is Joe Linton if he's in form. If it's Murphy, like you look at Murphy, he's in the purple patch. He's pretty much involved everywhere. And then keep switching. The second and the third most involved players at Newcastle keep switching very often, which is slightly why I prefer Boomer. If you don't have both of them, I have the bias with the fixtures as well. Even with the tough fixtures, I have that bias.
No, I think that's actually good to hear because of the conviction towards Brian Mbumo, because he's just been
Yeah.
incredible this season. I just edge towards Gordon just to be different because I think he's looking at it at the moment. He's on set pieces. He's just a lot of attack flow through the left hand side, the Hall Gordon combination and Joel Linton as well. So I do look at Gordon and see that there is a Hall coming in the next 2 to 3 game weeks. But I think when you're looking at when you're shopping right now, want to buy a player who you want to keep throughout for the next 10 game weeks, I think it's definitely Mbumo. But if you have that luxury to keep Gordon for a few weeks and then move, then that is also fine. I think that's a good enough move to have
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't switch sideways for sure, people, if you have Gordon. I have Gordon. I'm not doing that right now. 24, 25 seems like when you know for sure what Newcastle's 29 game week would look like, then you can switch around. I think that's a better way of looking at it. Otherwise, you can look at other positions to upgrade to MMO. That's always an option.
Slightly more expensive. Had a fantastic game against Liverpool. What are your thoughts on Bruno Fernandes? Because it's just that Mbumo and Gordon are far more consistent. It feels that way. Although Bruno did return against Liverpool and has a good bunch of fixtures coming up. Southampton at home, Brighton at home, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Spurs away in the next 5 game weeks, which are good fixtures. And you can hold him to for the long term as well. He has
Yeah.
Ipswich in game week 27. He has Leicester in game week 29. So he does play all the three promoted teams in the next from now until blank game week, and he has good home fixtures. But it's just that you don't have the conviction when it comes to the consistency that Man United are showing right now. They can beat Man City, they can draw against Liverpool at Anfield, but then they just don't hold that performance. I hope it's different this term around, because when it came against Man City, they went on to lose 3 games after that. But now they're playing bottom club Southampton, and surely not the game week where you're going to remove Fernandez from your teams if you have him. But like, where does he stand as an asset? How far is he from Mbumo and Gordon? And Does it that do you see like points coming over there as well?
I think it was majorly out of the fact that he was rested and he got like a 10-day rest. That definitely boosted his performance. I think that did play into that game against Liverpool, and it was also very game set. I don't know with Bruno Fernandes. I feel like he's generally dependent on set pieces and a bit of penalties for him. Generally, has been he's been like he's been consistent through those various outlets. With the other two, I think it's pretty much open goal involvement. How many goals that team is scoring with United? My concern is also that the fact that they're not very heavy on scoring as of now. They're more sort of let's not try to concede. We can score one or two goals and then win the games. The other teams, Newcastle, are free flowing. They look like a team who could score 5 goals each game week. Whenever Brentford player less than a 10 sort of position team, they score like that. So I think those two teams are more open and flowing on goals, and that is why I prefer those assets. Nothing against Bruno Fernandes, you can just hold him throughout, but I just feel the upside is with the other guys.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. I think Bruno is a fine asset to hold. I don't think it's a sell.
Yeah,
But if you're shopping, I'd look at Mbumo and Gordon over Bruno. Yeah, I don't think I have to add much over there. But I hope the
yeah. If you
points do
have
come
him,
for Bruno and the form does change for Man United
the fixtures are
because it's
good. If
big
you
time.
have him, hold him. I wouldn't buy. I don't think I would go and buy Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, I'd do that as well. I wouldn't do that as well. Yeah.
If you have him, I'll hold, but because there's a good fixture, but not buy.
Yes. Coming down the list, I don't think we recommend anyone buy any 5 million midfielders. But either ways, let's just have a chat on Jacob Murphy because at this point, he is really upping the expected goal involvement data. He has both goal and assist threat. He has been involved in both goal and assist. I think 3.27 is his expected goal involvement, but he's had 8 returns in the last 6 game weeks.
Yeah.
And especially when you have Newcastle, you've seen it over the last 2.5 seasons where they have been good under Eddie Howe in like most parts. At home, they are a different team, and they have 3 of their next 4 fixtures at home, and the away fixture is against Southampton. So you could find 15, 16 goals in these games, in these 4 games. And I think when it comes to a lot of games, you do see that a player like Murphy at 5.1 comes at a very good value to be involved with in those goals.
I believe that too. I think people are ignoring slightly or ignoring him because of his price point. If he was 6.5, he'd be in much more teams. And he's just in a purple patch. He's just right there when the goal is happening, or like the last passes he's putting into Isaac. He's just sort of the position he's into, the form he's into. If you're in like looking for a 5 million guy, you can bet on him. But again, caveat, and I think we discussed this on our members group as well. Is he a replacement for Gordon? I don't think so. He's the same output. I think he's matching him, but on a longer term basis from now till game week 30, Gordon will outscore him at least by a margin of 15 points. So if you're looking very long term and are okay with the price point, if you feel like you can save like about 2 million invested somewhere else in maybe the defense of a team or an attack or somewhere, fair. Otherwise, I think Gordon is preferred to me.
Yeah, I think I framed this question a little different. Earlier in the pod, we were discussing about holding your transfers and not making the
Yeah.
sideways move. But a player who's in a very good, highly functional team, probably the most informed team in the league, playing 3 good home fixtures and a Southampton game for the next 4 games, and you know for sure he's not going to be a long-term pick for multiple reasons. Newcastle's
Yeah.
fixtures go down. He has a blank in 29. So basically, for the next 4 fixtures, is he worth being an exception from what we said earlier and look at him as say a transfer in and transfer out?
Not for the next four. Then you probably if you're planning to hold him through and out, and it could be a good strategy because then it allows you to have Newcastle cover, allows you to easily get rid of Gordon to a Burmo. So if that's your strategy, that's where I would look at, and the only strategy that would I would consider. If you're someone who's looking like okay, I'll get him and then sell him off, I don't think true transfers are worth it. There are other places you can gain points. For someone who has a third striker injured in terms of a João Pedro or an even Ilson, that is a good option still to consider because now you can play your fifth midfielder. Don't have to waste a transfer on a striker where there are none at the moment. So
Yeah,
some
that
factors you want
sounds
to
good as
consider,
well. It
but
does.
not for an in and out. Purely an in and out, I feel like the transfers are valuable elsewhere.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
like the
Any
option
other
of someone
midfielders?
having like a João Pedro who can switch up like a Rogers to a Murphy and bench João Pedro. That's a great move to have, and that's a good sort of position to be in.
Definitely. Any other midfielders in mind? I think coming down, there are quite a few names who
No,
have like popped up,
no
but
City
I
asset.
just don't think they are like Savino has given returns, Martinelli has given returns, but at this point, I'm not sure if they are transfer ins. I don't think, yeah, they don't have that sort of confidence when it comes to. So, like overall, the only midfielders we'd be looking to bring in at this moment are the 7.5 to 8.5 midfielders, because like I think all of us have some combination of the players: Semenyo, Enzo, Ahmad, Sar. Uh, Rogers, and all of these. So I
All of
just
these
like, as
options,
we
yeah.
did mention, they are perfectly fine. You can hold them. So the most like more and most of us have Salah and Palmer. So I think that that third midfielder spot or like fourth midfielder spot, we have discussed four big names. I think it's Mbomo, Bruno, Gordon, Eze, and these are the four sort of players who look like transfer ins this week, who look like players who you can sort of bring in and have for the time, have for the good future. And what do you think? How do you rank these four? I think we can end the midfield section with that.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more point. I'll just put this before the ranking. A lot of people interested in Ilanga. He's been looking in a lot on the score sheet as a replacement to Chris Wood. I'm not very fond of it. The fixtures are tough for Nottingham. In between, there are some games which are good, but again, the only reason Chris Wood stays intact in our team is because he's on penalties as well. He's very consistent and talismanic to the team. Ilanga doesn't have the same impact. He's not on the same sort of penalty situation as well. So I think that is why Chris Wood is preferred, and Ilanga for me doesn't fit into the same sort of category because people
Yeah,
are
I would
considering
say
it's the same logic. Like he's cheaper. If you're going for Chris Wood, why not Ilanga? There's a genuine reason to differentiate. Penalties makes a yeah, large difference, and again, just the talismanic nature of Chris Wood.
yeah. At some teams, you just can't have a replacement who's like
Yeah.
that. And I would say a big no for Elanga. He's in the same category where I'd put him last out of all the sub 6 million midfielders.
Okay, and rank the sub 8 million midfielders or 8.5.
The four midfielders: Mbumo, Bruno,
Yeah.
Gordon, Eze.
For me, given if you are buying someone right now, I think it's Eze, Gordon, Bruno, Bumo, only because Bumo has two tough fixtures coming up next up. And even on the longer scale, I would just place Bumo over someone like a Gordon. That would be Eze, Bumo, Gordon, and then Bruno for me. That's sort of how I would rank.
Short term, I'd put Gordon at first. For me personally, I think like the way Newcastle look, it's incredible. Bumo, I think I'd put Eze, then Bruno, then Bumo, purely because
Yeah,
of the
only
next
because
four
of the two
fixtures.
fixtures. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're like, I don't think those fixtures are bad. I'm just putting them because we are looking at a short term period, but we are also trying to bring in transfers for a longer term. So if I was shopping this week, I'd be looking for a long term, because for all the reasons we mentioned. So I think I'd put Mbumo one, Gordon two, Bruno three, SJ four.
Okay. Okay.
So I think with that, we'll just move on to the defense. I think slightly touch upon them and quickly try to wrap it up. Any talking points? I think mainly
Pretty much
it's
same
it's
on the
looking at
defense
Arsenal
as
and
well.
Liverpool the same thing.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
you
Newcastle
you
are
do
improving.
have Newcastle are really good at this point. Hall is looking like a very good asset for the next few weeks, and it's also a good transfer in if you have say need a defender in. But holding Robinson and Munoz does look like good options too. I think they will continue to tick along. But the
Yeah,
main conversation of this week has been, I think it's been lesser over the last 3-4 days, but the first few days, as soon as the Man United Liverpool game was done, all the conversation was around Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he dropped a stinker against Manchester United, and there were a lot of talks about the transfer, about where his mind is, about what about his FPL. Like, is he too much? Is he? Yeah, are you spending too much on him? Is it time to transfer him out? And nobody is thinking that in 2 weeks he has Ipswich at home, then he has Wolves at home, he has a double coming. So if you have him in your team, I don't think there's any scenario in which I'd recommend to transfer him out,
Yeah,
because just
I
before
agree.
the United game he played West Ham, he scored 15 points that game. So I don't know why the memory is just so short that you are going off trend so easily. I don't think that one performance is going to change much. He played well when he came on against Spurs, especially attacking wise, and I think you might get another haul from him in an unexpected game rather than an expected game like Leicester home. So I think he's a good hold over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a hold. There's no reason why you should probably look at selling him this game week. And generally, on the attacking output in front, he does well. So I think just hold him at least till the double game week, and then you can reassess where you want to
Yes.
have Trent in
Yes.
your team.
Even when it comes to upgrading other midfield or forward positions, I'd still say hold Trent and try to find that money from elsewhere, because when you're looking at players who are doing well in Mbumo, Gordon, etc., you'd want to find money from that. And
Yeah.
one way of doing it is downgrading Trent, but I don't think I'd do that at all.
Yeah, that's something where we differ. Post game, the double game week, I could consider, but not right
Yes,
now.
not right now at all. And Arsenal, I'm just we've not talked much about them. They are just so good as a defensive unit, and they will continue to keep clean sheets. But now I think it's finally a time where you are finding players like Munoz, like Hall, like Robinson, and other like a Bournemouth defender also. Kirkes has been good. Hoyson has been good, where you can maybe sort of downgrade one of your defenders, maybe downgrade Raya to a Henderson, to a Cells, to fund money. But I think it's not an immediate concern as of now. But eventually, when you need to use the assistant manager chip, when you need to upgrade other places, I think maybe moving away from one Arsenal defender might
Could
be
be an
viable,
option.
but
It's a
could
viable
be an
decision.
option.
It's a
But
viable
as of now,
decision. The fixtures would also at the end of the season. I don't think the fixtures are the most enticing. I have them out open over here, but from the end. So post game week 29, they play in 28. They play Chelsea, United 29, Chelsea, Fulham, Everton, Brentford, Crystal, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle. In between, they have Ipswich in 33 and 38. There's Southampton, which are generally open games for all teams. So there isn't a there isn't a game where I think even Everton you can put in the same category, which is a clean sheet fixture. But apart from that, the other fixtures are pretty much open for other teams to score. I think Chelsea, Fulham, Brentford, all teams are capable of scoring. Bournemouth, Crystal. So there isn't a guarantee to necessity to have a double defense, and you can probably look to switch around.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and I'm not sure you're looking at. I don't think they're uh, like as solid with clean sheet as they were last season. Although their stats are still very good, but they are conceding the odd goal. So it does look like, I think maybe you're trying to have a cheaper goalkeeper instead of Raya, or not have Timber or Saliba.
Yeah,
Could be a good place to be when it comes to the next few game weeks.
something
I
like
think
that.
eventually when you need to free money, I think personally I'm also looking to move away from Raya, to free that money, to bring in another, maybe the assistant manager chip to upgrade other places as well.
Yep, cool. We'll quickly walk through this game week.
Captaincy,
Anything in particular for captaincy? I think
tricky week, right?
this one's this one's a chance to sort of outscore the Salah captainers. This if you have Haaland, there's also good opportunity. Newcastle does possess a good opportunity. Bruno will be there as well. Where are you at this point?
The only slight concern is Isak. Also, there were talks around
There's
him
a
having a
friction
back
there.
issue sort
Yeah.
of thing, but I think he'll be totally fine, and he will probably be there. I think he looks like the best captaincy option this week if you want to move away from Salah. Of course, Salah against Nottingham Forest can be very similar to Salah against Newcastle away a few game weeks ago, where Palmer was captain against Southampton, but Salah came out with 18 points while Palmer came out with like 7 points. That could
Yeah.
happen, and for like I think this is also an opportunity for, if you're gonna stay on Salah, to gain some points out of Salah, because there will be movers towards Palmer, towards Jackson as well this week. But and Wolves are slightly getting better as a defense, but Newcastle just looks so functional. He's looking in great form. which just makes me think that Isak will continue to do well against Wolves. So it's close. I think it's I'll either have it on Isak or Salah.
No, I am considering Palmer too, but as of now, I still have it on Salah, just for the sake of it. Let's see, closer to the game week, maybe Palmer because we've got too much rest. There will be a sort of situation where we want to bounce back. This is the perfect sort of game week to that. Uh, there could be a situation. Let's see. Bournemouth are defensively good. They're better at home, is what I know. So away from home, and Chelsea is good at home. So let's see how it works out.
Yeah, I don't think I'd rule out Palmer as a captaincy either, but at this point with the form, I'm just leaning towards one of
Yeah,
Isaac or Salah. But if there are some signs that Palmer can be having one of those game weeks, and because out of all these players, again, still Palmer is the one who can have that 20 plus game
yeah,
week, and you always try to look into that. So that could happen, but I'm not really sure how easily that would happen this week. So I just stick with Isak or Salah for now and keep an eye on Palmer. Anyone
yeah.
out of the box over here? A United
Bruno,
player?
Bruno. I really think Bruno is a good shout. He has great historical record against Southampton. If people have ever captain or bought him, I have in a couple of seasons, so he really does well.
Yeah, he
Southampton
was
look
there.
really
He scored like 17 points or something during the 9-0 game. I remember. And
9-0. Even in the 3-2, then when they had a comeback against Southampton, Bruno scored the two goals while coming back. He put an assist as well. So historically, he's been good versus Southampton. I remember that specifically. So that's an option. If you have Haaland, that's a great option, to be honest, as well. Slightly better delivery. Kevin De Bruyne being back in the team is getting it better. I think
And
there's
Savinio on the left is helping Haaland. He's creating chances to him as well.
yeah,
When
he's
compared
cracking them.
to Doku or Grealish, Grealish has been like Grealish is more passive. Doku's very direct. You just don't look like Haaland is going to get anything. But Savinio is constantly looking for getting that ball into Haaland. He's been very creative as well, and I think he's going to continue to play there, and that's sort of helping Haaland a little bit. So I think he's a fine captaincy shout as well for those who have him. For the like very few people who have him. So that's just
Yeah,
definitely there.
that's. I think that's there. That's definitely there. So Haaland would be a differential. Bruno, if you have him, is a great differential. So between the two,
Yes.
I wouldn't look into the Crystal Palace guys. I think even though
No.
they're looking good, they're not still yet there for captaincy. So nowhere else, I think.
I think it's an important game for Leicester. I'd expect them to set up a little bit better than they were a few games
Yeah,
back.
they've
When
been
you're
getting there.
playing, yeah, when you're playing Newcastle, Liverpool, United, and all of that, it's a different case. But when you're playing Crystal Palace at home, this is a game where you want to get something out of it, especially if you need to survive. And Leicester are slowly getting into the zone where it could be out of their reach. So this is a very important game for them, and at a good time where they'll need to play well. So I do expect Leicester to score, and I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for Crystal Palace. But yeah, they have like the data says they have been conceding a lot of chances. So Crystal Palace will be good, but I don't think they are a captaincy shout.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
Moving on to our teams, then. What do you have in your team?
Before that, I think it's been a very long pod. We have done quite a bit extensive discussion, so it'd be nice if those who are watching to share this video. If you'd like, to, please hit the like button. Please let us know in the comments what sort of question answers you have that we can address in the comments in future videos as well. And yeah, any uh, anything to mention?
No, I think do hit the like button and subscribe. Just helps us. And comment down below your teams, your doubts, your captaincy options. We actively check our comments. Whatever is there, we would answer. Be happy to answer those questions. So yeah, if you have like last minute questions before the deadline, something, go comment on our videos. We'll answer them.
Yes.
I think yeah. Akhilesh is back. Your team. So what are you planning, Akhilesh?
I have Raya and goal, who I'm going to play. Hall, Gabriel, Trent as my three defenders. Mikalenko and Greaves are going to be on the bench. Palmer, Salah, Bruno, Semenyo, Rogers, Isak, Jackson, Joao Pedro. Currently, I have Rogers in my bench, but I'm really not sure he scored again against West Ham yesterday. So I like Semenyo against Chelsea a little more than Rogers against Everton. Chelsea might be open, might be conceding those chances, and Semenyo might be playing center forward, and I like that appeal right now.
Yeah.
Uh, if Joe Pedro is out, I think it puts my benching headache and once and for all. But I'd prefer Joe Pedro being fit for the Ipswich game. But overall, I think it's just a benching headache. I was looking at maybe moving Semenyo to Murphy, but I'm not gonna do that. There's very little chance I'm gonna do that. But that's where I am. The currently, but the bus captain is on Salah. Vice captain is on Isak, but Salah, Isak, Palmer are in consideration. Maybe
Well,
Bruno as well, but I think it's far lesser.
I think that's a good opportunity for you to move your 5.5 sub midfielders to Murphy. You don't have Gordon. Seems like a good cover up. The next four are great. And you have three free transfers in the bank. I think there is an upside. There is genuine upside there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe yeah, I think I've also looked at my team over the next week. Next week, I'm not sure I'm going to make a transfer because all of these continue to have good fixtures. Is new Jackson again has Wolves at home because I might just hold over there. The only thing is Rogers has Arsenal away, so I'm not sure if I want to remove Rogers or Semenyo. In that case, for this week, if I want to bring in Murphy, but that does look like a decent option and one to look at. But I'm gonna count that as two free transfers rather than one because I'm gonna remove Murphy at some point of time.
No,
That's where I am.
your it could also just result since you have transfers. If you look at it this way, uh, Murphy till game week 24, and then an upgrade to Boomo when you downgrade Jackson is sort of perfectly fits into your team. And there is two sort of upside moves, and they could pay off generally in how you put them in order. So I think there is decent, especially when if you're holding Jackson, you will free up funds exactly around the same period of time. And given you're already in a position of three free transfers, there could be a good chance for an upside chase there.
Hmm. And if you were to do this, would you remove Semenyo or Rogers?
I haven't go back to the Bournemouth fixture ticker. I'm not sure of what Bournemouth play long term. Okay, Bournemouth
So they are.
has, yep,
Next four
around
are
the
not good. Then they have Southampton, Wolves in 25-26. They have Brentford at home into game week 29, which
I,
I've
I,
looked at as well.
no, I think I'd play. I'd just keep Rogers. It
You'll
could
keep
be
Rogers.
resulting into a extra blank game week player, which most likely will happen. So if you go back to your team, which means you'll have two Liverpool guys, one Aston Villa guy,
Yeah,
and
say it's Newcastle, Crystal. I don't have any Crystal Palace player, so that's one thing. But
that's
say
still
it's
six players. Yeah, there's
say
still
it's
five to
Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and Aston Villa blanking. I think I'll have one, two, three, four,
five.
five, six of them. But
No,
I
five
mean I'll
because
have enough transfers too.
you'll move like one of Murphy or Rogers to MOM. I'm assuming that move will happen.
Yes,
So
and
you'll
I
have like
think
five.
maybe I'll be removing Trent as well at that point of time. So
Yeah, so
I will be
not
getting.
not a bad position. You already are planning for like five moves. I think you're pretty set to go into four or five moves into gaming 29. So I think given what you are planning, given your three free transfers, use one maybe for Murphy. There is an upside, or if you want to stay another week and do a combination move for Jackson to an Eze plus a striker, can do. But I think just the move to Murphy and then Bumo just will be more beneficial.
Yeah, I think I'll give more thought into that. I might be considering that move. SAR I'm not doing because it just takes me
It's just
more money
sideways. I
to
don't
get
think
to
it's worth
SAR.
it as of now. I think it's
Yeah,
pretty sideways. I
yeah.
I agree with the
Semenyo to
Abu
Murphy will also clear point 0.5 in the bank, which could help me
which will
again
be
later.
useful again for your managership.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. That's pretty much.
Yeah, one more move that could help me do is maybe Raya to a Pickford and then Joe Pedro to Wood next week. That could be good as well when if I do Murphy this week. But yeah, I'll be giving thoughts
But then
into
again,
that.
you'll have to sort of free up funds to get an assistant manager. So might as well do it right now
Jackson
because.
is right there for that. Like the reason I'm liking having Jackson is he's right there for that. But yeah,
But
I
then
think
you
I'll
sort of
give
compromise
more
on three
into.
positions. If you look at it that way, Jackson to someone would be compromising because you're saving money. Semenyo stays the same because you'll not be using the money to upgrade. Roger stays the same. So I would rather just keep intact the money. Once you downgrade Trent, then get Wood. Or once you downgrade Jackson, just might as well directly go for Wood and then use the money to upgrade. It just seems better that way to me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I'll probably do that. But I think when I'm into game week 24, 25, I'm more prone into downgrading Jackson to
Yeah,
a Wissa rather than a Wood. But that
yeah,
that's
that's
that's a
also
few
that's
weeks
also
later. But
yeah.
we'll figure that out. But moving on to your team, you can go
My
for it.
team, Pickford in goal. I have Timber, Gabriel, Guardiol. I might just continue playing them. I am considering removing an Arsenal defender this game week just to free up funds, starting up doing that. Then that's an option in my team. I have Sar, Rogers, Palmer, Salah, Gordon, all of them playing, Jesus and Isaac. Initially, my plan was to just save. Even Ilson to Jimenez is sort of sideways. I'm not interested. Rogers to Murphy is the second option I'm considering. So depending on where my mind sways, the three options: either Timber downgrade to a defender to save money, free of funds. That's one. Rogers to a Murphy. That's two. Or even Ilson to Jimenez. That's three. Uh,
I'd hold.
but
I don't
yeah,
think I'd
overall of them,
Rogers to Murphy is very sideways. Timber downwards, maybe to a Hall is makes sense, but I just hold for this week. You'll have better idea on like how you'd like to combine the moves, and you might just see Arsenal defense being good. And Evan Nilsson, I just wait for another week to see if Joao Pedrosa continues to be a good option, and maybe move him to a Visa eventually. That could also be an option. So I just
yeah,
hold. I
even
think the
Ilson,
team
I'm not
good for
really
this.
very looking into it because I just want to wait for it and use it as a like keep it there as a dummy and use the money to free up whenever I need for an assistant managership. I think that all of these moves are pretty sideways, so might just stick to the initial plan of saving a move and then seeing next game week.
Yes, I think your team looks good for this week. So saving
This
does
week I
look
can
like
play a good sort of attack. Only the double Arsenal is a problem, but I think still manageable.
yeah. I won't rule away Arsenal keeping a clean sheet, and a lot of people have double Arsenal, so I don't think it's going
Yeah,
to be that much of
difference.
an
Yeah.
issue. But yeah, I think your team looks good. What do you think is a long term strategy? Where are you looking to bring in your assistant managership? Do you have your triple captain left?
Yeah, I have pretty much everything left. So I'm not thinking of the assistant manager as of now. I had a couple of moves to get in Buemo for Gordon and everything. I still have to jot down where I want to take out funds. Most likely two players which I want to free up directly Guardiola and Timber. I think that's where I'm going to obtain my funds and then sort of let's see where it goes from there.
Okay,
Cordell is
yeah, it
actually
sounds
decent.
good.
It's not that bad. He's not been that attacking, but clean sheet odds are sort of improving. He had a
For
really bad
Guardiola.
game. Yeah, he had a really bad game last to last game week. I think when they considered against Everton, he hit the post and everything. So it was really hard luck. I think I had him in that game. But I think City will keep clean sheets in this sort of segment of the season. I want to hold to Guardiola.
Yeah, and I think he looks like a good attacking asset as well. And like he
Yeah.
gets a one header, good headed chance at some point.
Every
Even
game.
the Haaland missed penalty against Everton, he got the assist for that, which was then ruled out.
Yeah.
Which I think he does look like a good option for like people who don't have Trent, people who are like probably not going to. I don't think anyone's going to come to Guardiola as well. You might get some points over there.
Yeah. Good differential to have, I feel.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that we can wrap up
Wrap up
the pod.
today's sort of
And
episode with pretty long game week 21 and like the chip
yeah,
strategy sort of preview. Hopefully you guys can comment down your teams below. We will help you figure out what strategy are you looking at, what are the strategies you could think of, and especially captaincy is a big one. So let's see how many people are going for Salah or differential captain this time.
yeah. Any last words?
Nope. I think it's good game week to differ from captaincy. I feel it's a good chance for a
Yes.
good haul somewhere else.
Yeah. And I do think maybe I'd like some points from Bruno Fernandes this week. Good
Yeah,
differential currently, and also Nicholas Jackson. Please, I need some points from him. And that could help me be more clear with my plans forward. And yeah, I think it's a good game week. Finally, we have some FA Cup to watch as well, and then have more idea on how teams are going, how blanks and doubles are going up. We will be coming back with a like much clearer video where we have more information on how blanks and doubles are shaping up. So yeah,
yeah,
until then, signing off here from the FPL Tips YouTube channel.
yeah.
Goodbye.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.